Hey guys, here we are, the pregame.com podcast, weekly podcast, and video. Now, this is our first segment, and I'm joined by Marco D'Angelo, the GM of picks at pregame.com, who actually has a new mic. He doesn't even have a mic in front of him, and hopefully we're all going to graduate to that soon.
Very good.
And Vegas Runner, a genuine professional bettor here in Las Vegas. We have 3 segments typically. You can see them all at pregame.tv. First one is sports betting talk, and we're going to be talking about 2 things this week, and this is August 26, 2009, is Delaware and the decision by the federal courts to not allow one-team betting and what that means for the general trend of sports betting in the United States. And then number 2, we're going to be talking about American League players going to the National League and what that means for batters. Let's start with that. And Marco, let's talk about that. What's your thoughts? We're seeing Lee, the pitcher, and others doing very well in the National League.
Okay, before I get to that, one quick thing for all of my guys that commented last week on Marco's stomach. I have a tip for you guys. Be wary of a capper that's skinny, because it takes a lot of winners to feed this thing. So moving along. So
you're saying it's a sign of your success.
That is it. Yeah, definitely.
Then you could be the best capper in the country.
Possibly. But going to the pitchers changing leagues and players, this is a huge advantage. When you get a American League pitcher coming to the National League, almost always you're going to have a increase in his stats.
So this is we're talking about pitcher specifically.
Pitcher specifically, and the reason being is every pitcher, it's almost like dropping in class coming to the National League, because you go from facing 9 hitters to 8 basically, because now you get to face the pitcher batting. First time around the league, obviously the guy right now that's doing it is Cliff Lee. He has just been a monster.
Let's break some of this stuff down, because this is good stuff. And VR, jump in. And I know you got a lot to say on the Delaware stuff, your Philly boys. One is every pitcher in the National League does not have to face a DH, and every pitcher in the American League does. So the question is, why would an American League pitcher have a greater advantage in the National League than the National League pitchers that are already there in the same situation?
Well, because he's been doing it facing 9.
Oh my God, who could that be? Brandon, you want to turn that off? RJ Bell, there's people calling it.
He's such an important guy, but for those,
it's my mother. Well, that's not quite as impressive. But.
That's good. Okay, Mom, don't worry. RJ's doing good. We're taking care of him. But going back to it, you've got the American League pitchers. They're facing 9 guys, so they don't get the luxury of pitching around certain situations, where in the National League, if you got a couple runners on base and you got the number 8 hitter coming up, you can pitch around him to get to the pitcher in the 9 spot.
Oh, I agree with that, but my question is, every pitcher in the National League has that same advantage. Why does an American League pitcher who comes over, why is that a bigger advantage for him?
Because he's
used to it?
He's used to pitching to not having any breaks in the lineup. You know, it's almost, to use a horse racing clay, they're definitely dropping in class. It's less of a competition.
What do you think about this, Vegas?
Well, I think it's the initial move does reflect that, and I think they do have a sigh of relief as soon as they go.
So that makes more sense. And again, one of the things we try to do here is we want to make sure that we really have, if you're going to bet off of concepts, you better make sure that they're right, and that's why I like to drill down and really make sure. Marco's making great points, but we want to make sure we understand exactly what's being said. So what I'm hearing from you is, hey, every National League pitcher has the same advantage, but this American League pitcher just came over, is the transition to having that sigh of relief is more potent for him initially.
Yeah, because if you look through the history, I mean, I don't see this a trend that continues year after year after year. Guys that come from the American League all of a sudden have greater careers when they cross over to the National League.
It is a trend or not a trend?
I don't think it is.
So why is it happening now?
I think it's the initial move from the American to the National League.
Oh, no, that initial move advantage has happened historically in your mind.
Through the season is what I'm saying. I don't think it's going to carry on. I don't think because an American League pitcher goes to the National League, all of a sudden he's guaranteed to have a longer, better career because of it.
Here's my question. You're saying that the advantage is something that happens over a short period of time. Let's just say 2 months. has that 2-month advantage happened historically? So back in 1995, when a pitcher came from the American League to the National, did they have 2 months of superior performance?
Yeah, absolutely. You would always see the National League
is that
teams
your take?
go after American League pitchers towards that trade deadline. It's hardly ever the other way around. It's usually the National League going after them big American League pitchers, getting them ready for the playoffs.
The other advantage you don't have as much as before is because now we have interleague play. One of the built-in advantages of changing leagues is you don't get to see that pitcher. It's always a huge advantage to the pitcher the first time around the league because the hitters don't know his stuff. Now, because of interleague play, National League and American League guys get to see the other league pitchers more often.
So that would diminish the advantage.
It would diminish it over the last few years, but there's still you only play like 4 teams generally in interleague play, so there still is an advantage that first time around the league.
Okay, so this now, and again, I like the fact we're drilling down. This makes a lot of sense to me. So what I'm hearing is, one, there's that first few months and the sigh of relief in regards to the fact that they don't have to face the DH, and it's almost like when you swing that heavy bat, back in my Little League days here, and Bronco and Pony, is you would swing that heavy bat, then when you picked up the normal bat, it felt very light, but then, even 5 or 6 swings later, it didn't feel so light. So that effect and it's a rookie effect too sometimes.
Absolutely.
Is first time through the league, it's an advantage for the pitchers, and the switch is causing the pitcher to have that advantage.
I always take a rookie making his first start.
All right, so our actionable nugget here is, and that's what we try to do, is actionable information, is if a pitcher goes from the American to the National League for the first few months, is that fair to say?
Yeah,
look for an
absolutely.
uptick in performance because of the sigh relief from the DH or the lack of the DH and being unfamiliar to the hitters.
Absolutely.
All right, well, we have 2.5 minutes. VR, tell us about Delaware. It was a disappointment, I think, in general.
Huge disappointment, I think, for the state and for bettors as a whole. The state's going to lose an estimated $50+ million if they're not able to overturn this over. They have 2 weeks to appeal. I don't think it's going to happen. From what I heard, the stock has plummeted 51 cents as soon as that announcement came out.
Whose stock is this?
Dover Downs, or the company that's going to be putting in was supposed to be putting in the sports book. They're still going to do the parlay cards, they say, but that's just not going to generate the kind of attention that single game betting does. The one thing it does prove is that the sports books are beatable, and we are doing something that you can beat the books at, because the ruling is when you go to single game betting, it takes the gamble out of it. And that's pretty much what they're ruling.
That was the legal side of things. And if you have something to quote, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, the exact quote was, "Single game wagering does indeed take the luck out of wagering, and that is why the bill violates federal law."
So really what you're saying is the U.S. government is saying, and maybe not directly, that if you go to pregame.com, it's no longer luck.
Absolutely not. And I know wise guys that were foaming at the mouth waiting to go and exploit Delaware. And now what's going to happen is they're going to put these parlay cards out, and they're going to get exploited through them, just like it happened here in Las Vegas. Wise guys are going to go regardless, and they exploited the parlay card business out here. We all know about that. They kicked them all out. And they're going to end up trying to do it over there. But as far as the sports books in general, I think it's not going to have any influence in Las Vegas. I think the books back east are happy this is happening.
Well, yeah, anytime you have a legal alternative, the illegal operators don't want that alternative competition. So
one quick note, RJ. I think that Harrington Downs and Dover Downs, they are going forward with their $5 million renovations on their sports books. They're going to go full steam ahead because I think they can get it overturned in the future.
And that's my final point quickly is history moves at a slow pace. It's not about months. It's not even about years. When you look at Prohibition, you read it in the history books, and it came and it went, but it was many years in between. I think the general trend clearly is sports betting is becoming more accepted in our culture, which is a good thing for those who enjoy it, and you got 3 of them right here. All right, segment number 1 is done. Segment number 2 is going to be where we talk about the big games of the week. It's the biggest games coming up, and we're going to be talking about San Diego and Atlanta.
Yep.
And we'll be talking about week 3 sports betting in the preseason. Remember, you can see all of our segments at pregame.tv. Talk to you in a few.